In an era marked by turbulent kingdoms and remarkable figures, emerges the extraordinary story of a man whose name echoes through the centuries: Elijah, the fearless prophet who defied kings and embraced his destiny. Born in the land of Gilead, his life intertwines with critical events in Israel's history, bearing witness to courage, miracles, and unwavering faith. Though no book was written solely about him, his presence is etched into significant chapters of biblical scripture, from Mount Carmel to the Korath Ravine, and his confrontations with King Ahab and Queen Jezebel. Elijah's journey unveils captivating details of a prophet who, though subject to the same human frailties as us, was elevated by faith to divine heights. Prepare to dive into an epic narrative where the line between the supernatural and the human blurs, revealing the extraordinary deeds of this man chosen by God. Elijah's story begins in Gilead, painting him as one of Israel's greatest prophets. Although no text is dedicated exclusively to him, his life intersects with the reigns of Ahab and Ahaziah, two significant monarchs in Israel's history, and his clashes with Jezebel, a queen infamous for her malevolence. Emerging in the 9th century BCE, a time of prophetic anticipation, Elijah's influence resonated so profoundly that centuries later, Jewish leaders questioned whether John the Baptist might be Elijah reborn, a figure intrinsically tied to God's divine plan. The prophesied return of Elijah, heralding the great and dreadful day of the Lord, reverberates through Scripture, as does his distinct presence on the Mount of Transfiguration, standing alongside Moses and Christ, discussing the redemptive sacrifice to come. As written in Malachi 4 verse 5, "Behold, I will send you Elijah the prophet before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord." Despite his spiritual significance, little is known of Elijah's origins or family. The Bible identifies him only as a Tishbite from Gilead, suggesting his story began in Transjordan. A man of notable physical vigor, Elijah demonstrated exceptional stamina, famously running ahead of King Ahab's chariot from Mount Carmel to Jezreel, a testament to his physical prowess and divine purpose. Elijah's mission began dramatically as he confronted King Ahab, proclaiming, "There will be neither dew nor rain in the next few years except at my word." After delivering this bold prophecy, he followed divine instruction to hide by the Korath Ravine, where ravens miraculously brought him bread and meat, and he drank from the brook until it dried up under God's command. In a pivotal moment, Elijah journeyed to Zarephath in Sidon, where a destitute widow was tasked with sustaining him. Despite her dire circumstances, Elijah requested a small loaf of bread first, assuring her that God would ensure her supply of flour and oil would not run out until the drought ended. Her faith enabled the miracle, as her provisions lasted through the famine. Later, when her son fell gravely ill, Elijah prayed fervently, and the boy was miraculously restored to life, cementing the widow's belief in Elijah's divine mission. Elijah's defining moment came on Mount Carmel in an epic confrontation with the prophets of Baal. After 3 years of drought, Elijah obeyed God's command to meet Ahab and announced rain's impending return. Ahab, along with 450 prophets of Baal and 400 prophets of Asherah, gathered on Mount Carmel for a decisive test of faith. Elijah boldly challenged the people of Israel, accusing them of faltering between two opinions and urging them to choose between God and Baal. The contest involved preparing 2 altars, one for Baal and one for the Lord. The God who answered by fire would be acknowledged as the true God. Despite the prophets of Baal calling on their God all day, there was no response. Elijah, mocking their efforts, then rebuilt the Lord's altar, drenched it in water, and prayed. Fire from heaven consumed the sacrifice, the wood, the stones, and even the water in the trench. The people fell prostrate, declaring, "The Lord, He is God." This miraculous event marked a turning point, demonstrating God's power and silencing the prophets of Baal. Elijah then prayed for rain, and a heavy downpour ended the devastating drought, further confirming God's favor. Elijah's story continues to inspire as a testament to faith, courage, and divine providence. Through his unwavering trust in God, he not only transformed a nation, but left a legacy of hope and redemption that resonates across the ages. The prophet of the Lord turned to the people and posed a powerful question. How long will you waver between two opinions? If the Lord is God, follow him. But if Baal is God, then follow him. His words resounded among the crowd, but they remained silent, unsure of how to respond. To end this uncertainty, Elijah proposed a challenge to reveal the true God. He suggested that 2 bulls be prepared, one for Baal's prophets and one for himself, the prophet of the Lord. The bulls would be placed on wood, but no fire would be set. Each group would then call upon their deity, and the one who answered with fire would prove to be the true God. The people agreed to this test. Elijah allowed the prophets of Baal to act first. They selected their bull, prepared it, and began to call on Baal from morning until noon, shouting, "O Baal, answer us." But there was no response, no sign of divine intervention. Elijah couldn't resist mocking them, suggesting that their God might be deep in thought, traveling, or even sleeping and needed to be awakened. Driven by desperation, the prophets resorted to extreme measures, cutting themselves with knives and spears in a frantic display, yet their cries were met with silence. As the day wore on, Elijah took his turn. He gathered the people around him and began by repairing the neglected altar of the Lord, using 12 stones to symbolize the tribes of Israel. Around the altar, he dug a trench large enough to hold a significant amount of water. He then arranged the wood, placed the prepared bull on top, and took the challenge a step further by instructing the people to pour water over the offering and the wood. They repeated this 3 times until water saturated the altar and filled the trench, making it impossible for a natural fire to ignite. When it was time for the evening sacrifice, Elijah approached the altar and prayed earnestly, "Lord, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, let it be known today that you are God in Israel, and that I am your servant. Answer me, Lord, so that these people will know that you are God and turn their hearts back to you." In response, fire from heaven descended, consuming the offering, the wood, the stones, and even the water in the trench. It was an undeniable display of divine power. Overwhelmed, the people fell to the ground and cried out, "The Lord, He is God! The Lord, He is God!" In response, fire from heaven descended, consuming the offering, the wood, the stones, and even the water in the trench. It was an undeniable display of divine power. Overwhelmed, the people fell to the ground and cried out, "The Lord, He is God! The Lord, He is God!" The king of Aram, Ben-Hadad, fell ill and sent Hazael to consult the prophet Elisha regarding his recovery. Hazael carried a generous offering and asked Elisha for guidance. Elisha revealed that although Ben-Hadad would recover, he would still die. Then, staring intensely at Hazael, Elisha began to weep. Confused, Hazael inquired why the prophet was crying. Elisha explained that he foresaw the harm Hazael would bring upon Israel, including burning their fortresses, slaughtering their young men, and committing atrocities against women and children. Startled, Hazael asked how such deeds could be possible for someone like him, a mere servant. Elisha revealed that God had shown him that Hazael would become the king of Aram. Returning to Ben-Hadad, Hazael assassinated him the next day and ascended the throne, fulfilling the prophet's words. Meanwhile, another story unfolded in Jezreel, where Naboth, a faithful Israelite, owned a vineyard near King Ahab's palace. Ahab desired the vineyard and offered to buy it or exchange it for a better one. However, Naboth refused, citing its sacred inheritance from his ancestors. Frustrated, Ahab returned to his palace in despair. Queen Jezebel noticed his mood and devised a scheme to seize Naboth's vineyard. Writing letters in Ahab's name, she commanded the city's leaders to falsely accuse Naboth of blasphemy against God and the king. The plan unfolded as Jezebel ordered, and Naboth was unjustly stoned to death. Upon hearing of his death, Ahab took possession of the vineyard. However, God sent Elijah to confront Ahab in Naboth's vineyard. Elijah delivered a harsh prophecy, declaring divine judgment upon Ahab and Jezebel. He foretold the destruction of Ahab's lineage and proclaimed that dogs would devour Jezebel near the city walls. Hearing these words, Ahab humbled himself, fasting and repenting, which led God to delay the punishment on Ahab's house until after his death. Elijah's life continued to be a testament to his unyielding faith and commitment to God. In his final days on earth, Elijah prepared for his extraordinary departure. Knowing he would be taken to heaven, Elijah journeyed with his successor, Elisha, to several locations, despite repeatedly urging Elisha to stay behind. Each time, Elisha refused, insisting on accompanying his mentor. When they reached the Jordan River, Elijah struck the water with his cloak, and the river parted, allowing them to cross on dry ground. Elijah then asked Elisha what he wished for before his departure. Elisha requested a double portion of Elijah's spirit. Elijah agreed, saying the request would be granted if Elisha witnessed his ascension. As they walked and talked, a fiery chariot with horses appeared, separating them. Elijah was taken to heaven in a whirlwind, leaving his cloak behind. Elisha picked up the mantle, signifying the transfer of prophetic authority. Elijah's dramatic ascent into heaven became a lasting symbol of divine power and favor. It marked the continuation of God's work through Elisha and reinforced the legacy of Elijah as a man of courage, faith, and miracles. His life serves as a reminder of the sovereignty of God and the reward of unwavering trust in Him. Elijah's story invites reflection on faith, resilience, and the impact of divine intervention. Despite challenges, he remained steadfast, standing against idolatry and championing the worship of the one true God. His example inspires believers to remain faithful, trust in God's plans, and pursue righteousness regardless of adversity. Elijah's life and ministry leave an enduring legacy of faith, courage, and unwavering trust in God. His journey reminds us that even in the face of opposition, steadfastness in pursuing righteousness can lead to profound spiritual victories. The miraculous events surrounding his life underscore the power of prayer, the importance of obedience, and the faithfulness of God to those who earnestly seek Him. Elijah's story not only inspires us to remain faithful in our walk with God, but also challenges us to be agents of change, standing firm in truth and hope even amid life's storms. May his narrative encourage us to trust in God's sovereignty and to live lives that reflect His glory, knowing that divine purpose prevails over all circumstances.